Something strange is going on as we have multiple surprising Leafs updates to go over today as it pertains to both Cal Yarncroc as well as a couple other players and one specific prospect. The situation just keeps getting crazy. I'm going to break that down and discuss what it means going forward ahead of big games upcoming for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But before we get into it, folks, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. If you're part of the 71% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content. Your guys' support is fantastic. Thank you guys for that. We'll be live following tonight's game. There's a lot to go over today, and there's some weird things going on. We're going to focus on, of course, Cal Yarncroc making his Leafs debut for this season in tonight's game, but also some weird things that have happened this afternoon surrounding some prospects. And I want to start with that, and that is Topi Niemela, a guy who at one point was highly touted as a prospect, and now a bit of an interesting spot here. But there were some rumors this afternoon that you can see here. Another Swedish reporter is saying that this is done too. I'm wondering if this is a loan situation for the current season, meaning he could still be moved. Also possible is just on unconditional waivers. And this is saying that he was going from the Toronto Marlies to a different team, and I'm not in the AHL or anything like that. But then it came out and was clarified that he actually is staying with the Marlies and playing in North America. Topi Niemela's agent on the rumors that Leafs prospect is signing in Sweden. No truth to this. Topi is 100% committed to playing in North America. So a very weird situation. But for a guy in Topi Niemela who is a highly touted prospect for a little bit there, he still has some upside. It's good that he's not going to Sweden and leaving the Marlies.
I still think that he has a lot of upside, although I do also think that this organization values him maybe a little bit less now than the previous regime that was in charge. So I do think two things are true. But at the same time, when I first saw the tweet, I was like, how is this flying under the radar? I feel like this is very big news and nobody's making, anything of it. And then obviously this morning we got more on it, and the fact that his agent came out and said there's nothing to this. He's staying in North America. I thought that was a very interesting move if it were to happen. And obviously his agent came out and said it's not happening, so you have reason to believe that that is the case and he's going to stay with the Toronto Marlies. But at the same time, with the Marlies, he's not getting the playing time that maybe he was before too, so it could make some sense that he was going to go over there and get some more playing time to kind of continue to develop and all of that, see if he can then make the jump to the NHL at some point. But it seems like he's staying with the Marlies. Again, I think that he has a lot of upside. He's not the type of player that Treliving wants, and this organization, I think, values at this point, if you look at what the Leafs defense looks like right now on the main roster. But again, I do think that he has a lot of upside, and he's going to continue to do his thing with the Marlies, but things have changed. So it's an interesting situation with him specifically, but we'll continue to monitor how this goes until like next season, I guess. But again, I don't know if this regime, I should say, values him as much as the last one did.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Hopefully he can get some more run with the Marlies, see what he can do, because as soon as this news came out, a bunch of Leafs fans and people were saying how they believe in him and all these different things, which is funny because we haven't heard about him much prior to this, of course, rumor coming out about him going to Sweden. But let us know down below what your thoughts are on that. Just a very strange situation. We'll definitely keep an eye on going forward, especially if his agent came out and said that it's not true, so we'll keep an eye on that. But focusing on tonight's game, we have some they're not skating today, so you don't have the lines, but we can kind of infer a little bit here. Cal Yarncroc is expected to return to the lineup tonight, with Ryan Reeves projected to be scratched, just as we expected. But we finally have some moves being made. They also placed Chris Tanev on the IR, and Connor Dewar was activated, so a bunch of different things going on here. Cal Yarncroc is going to be in the lineup tonight against the Sharks. A pretty soft launch game for him, especially because the Sharks are not a fantastic team. However, it is a trap game. We know that, and hopefully the Leafs don't fall into it. But under under Craig Berube, the Leafs have been playing a lot better in games like this compared to Sheldon Keefe, where they played down to their opponent. Hopefully, they can continue their winning streak here and continue that insane stretch of play that they've been playing lately, especially when holding the lead into the third period. But Cal Yarncroc, he's an interesting guy. He's 33 years old, which he's a veteran now at this point in the league. Played for a bunch of different teams, played a ton of games. He might be seen as the Leafs' deadline addition to some degree, based on what a lot of these reports are saying as it pertains to the actual trade value of these players.
It's going to be interesting to see what he's going to be able to do. And in terms of the actual game, the Leafs have a ton of excuses that they can use coming into this game if they really wanted to. Getting probably one of the best games out of the Rangers on Friday. Then you play an afternoon game yesterday against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the second half of a back-to-back against a bad team. They should rise to the occasion. Like you said, they're doing a little bit better this season in, not playing down to their opponents. And that stat we covered yesterday too, or this morning, I should say, where, they've been able to hold leads going into the third period. They're undefeated with the lead going into the third period, which is crazy considering the narrative life and the reputation of this team before this season. But in terms of Calle Yarncroke, I'm going to be there live tonight to watch the game, so I'm going to get a nice look at him and what he can do around the ice and how he's feeling. Being back in the lineup, clearly he's feeling good, but I want to see how he kind of meshes with other guys and see how that goes. No surprise that Ryan Reeves is out of the lineup. They're playing the San Jose Sharks. That makes total sense. But Yarncroke is going to be, and I'm also interested to see where he slots in. I would assume it's on the third line, but we're only going to get the lineup very close to game time, so probably right before the game starts. So that's going to be very interesting to keep an eye on too. Maybe they kind of shuffle things around. Like he's played with Austin Matthews before, and they looked very good together. So I wonder if they experiment with that at all. I don't think that they're going to split up that top line, but you never really know to kind of lengthen the lineup. But I would assume it's the third line. I want to see what he has in the tank. And to touch on one last thing too, in terms of Chris Tanev, he was put on the IR. He's going to miss at least 3 games. That is retroactive to when he got hurt, though. So, he could be back soon, but we don't know exactly what that means. The fact that he's not on LTIR is a good thing, but this season you never know with the Leafs. Day to day turns into week to week, turns into month to month. So we will keep an eye on that, but hopefully he's back in pretty short order because, it didn't look like anything too significant. Then obviously there was rumors that, he had a brace on leaving the arena, stuff like that. So hopefully he's back by the end of this week.
Yeah, and we've saw the impact that, even the lack of his presence there against the Penguins, the Leafs give up a ton of goals, and Joseph Woll struggles a little bit, so his impact is immeasurable. As it pertains to Calle Yarncroc, yeah, he's replacing Ryan Reeves, so technically, the easy slot in would be on the fourth line, but I think they want to see what he can do on that third line, see how effective he is. You're going to be at the game. It's going to be a very important game. These games matter a lot now as the trade deadline comes down. You see here from Chris Johnson, Calle Yarncroc is likely to rejoin the Leafs lineup tomorrow, which is tonight. And now that he's healthy, he could be seen and used as a trade deadline addition for the team. So if they do decide that he is a trade deadline addition, I'm hoping that isn't the case. I want to see them actually go out and get some guys, whether that's a Scott Line, like we covered in the video earlier today, Nick Bukestad, any of those players. But, it does make some sense. If he ends up coming out and being a very serviceable player, there could be, an argument to be made that you shouldn't give up a lot of your assets, especially with how good the team is playing. That being said, I still think they absolutely will make a move, whether it's a depth defense and whether it's multiple moves as it pertains to a third-line center. But it's interesting. And also, Marshall Rafai swapped out for Dakota Mermis, need an extra D for the upcoming road trip. So that's another interesting point to be made here. But any quick final thoughts on this specific comment from Chris Johnson about how it could be used as the trade deadline chip? How do you feel about that? And also let us know down below. Is that a little bit concerning as the deadline is just 4 days away?
I don't really buy into. I think there are instances of this happening, but when people say that certain guys are put into the lineup to be showcased for a trade, I don't buy into that because I feel like coaches absolutely despise that. They want to put the best lineup possible out there. So I don't really buy into that too much. So I don't know if that's what this is. I think they're just trying to see what they have in him, and he's ready to go and he's returning to the lineup and he can help this team. He's been a pretty good player for them over the last couple of years, right? Not like a huge difference maker, but he's been a good depth player for them. So I'm interested to see what he can do tonight. I know it's against the Sharks, but just kind of how he's moving and all that, and if he feels comfortable and what happens with that. I don't know if any teams are interested in him either. He just came out, off of an injury and a surgery and all that. So I'm not too sure about that. Don't know what their deadline plans are anymore at this point. Anything can still happen. Everything is still on the table. So going to be interesting in that way to see what they do in the salary cap. Obviously, some of the moves that they've made, it's because, Steve's had to go through waivers if they waited a couple more days. So a couple of these moves are just like paper transactions. So Mermis is going to join the team just in case, there's an injury or anything like that. So he probably won't get into a game. But again, if there's an injury on the road trip, then he will. And it was just a paper transaction in that way, so they wouldn't lose guys to waivers.
Yep. Let us know down below what your thoughts are. A ton of different things. The Leafs stand atop of the Atlantic Division with a game in hand over the Panthers. So it's going to be a very crucial stretch of play. But if they can continue to hold on to that number one Atlantic spot, it is getting very, very tight with the Tampa Bay Lightning winning 8 in a row, the Panthers winning 3 in a row. So good thing the Leafs have won 5 in a row, because otherwise it would have been, you've been at risk of falling down those standings. A huge game tonight. Got to take care of business. We'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. So make sure to subscribe button. See you later.